Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Shavonna Noble, and today I'm talking about my journey to medical school as a non-traditional medical student. So this to give you some insight on my journey. Not only that, I am 31 years old, born and raised in Las Vegas, Nevada, and I'm currently studying to be a doctor of medicine. So this message is for those that are who are older, or if not older, you just took another route before getting to medicine, didn't come fresh out of college, ready to like set it on fire to go to medical school, because I know when I started, I was not. So this for those who took some detours and now you have to get back into the mode of being a student. So let's start with, I always had an idea that I wanted to be a doctor, but I wasn't in every medical group as a child, or looking for a mentor, which are things people that if you're going to medical school, you should probably be doing. You should probably be finding a mentor. You should probably be searching for medical groups, but I wasn't. So I found out more as I went through my journey for medical school, which is kind of basically how God does things. He tells you as you go. So if you never started on the path, what is there to tell you? Growing up, I knew that I wanted to be a doctor, but I wasn't clear on the fact that I wanted to be a doctor. So I took detours and I got a degree that really didn't pertain to being a doctor, which I found out later that it doesn't really matter what degree you get as long as you fill those prereqs. But I was the most uninformed person pursuing a career in medicine. A lot of things that happened along the way cost me time and money, which could have been avoided, I guess, but I didn't have anyone around to inform me about this world of medicine and how I should approach it if I wanted to be a doctor. So I didn't get serious about becoming a doctor until I was 25 years old. So I'm going through all the years today of me thinking about being a doctor until now. And that's what I'll be talking about. I'll try to make it short and sweet, but I want to begin with me being elementary. And at the age of 10, in my 5th grade class, we did a project about who am I. And that project I wrote down, I wanted to be an anesthesiologist, okay? I wanted to be an anesthesiologist. And my favorite teacher, Miss Keano, shout out to her because I had her for 4th and 5th, and that was my favorite teacher. She was so shocked that I knew what an anesthesiologist was. And I was too, because I really didn't know. All I knew was that they made a lot of money, and I really didn't know what was required of me to be a doctor. And all my research ended at the fact of, I want to be an anesthesiologist and they make money. That's where it ended. I didn't look any further. That was what it was, and I didn't do any more research after the 5th grade on what it meant to really be a doctor. So I was just using some fancy word, and all my research, like I said, ended at that time. But I knew that I had this desire, and I know that the money caught my attention. But as you go along, you realize that money is not the only desire you need to keep yourself interested in medicine. And from being in elementary, from that time saying that I wanted to be an anesthesiologist, later on it was solidified that I really wanted to go to medical school, and that was the decision for me. So let's skip to middle school. I attended a magnet program that was science and math, and now I can't even say that I was serious about the science and math, because I really probably should have taken into consideration that I was in these math classes at a younger age. But you really don't know how serious you should be about things until it's time to get serious, until you older, I really should have taken that class into consideration. I shouldn't have been playing. But I honestly didn't like my middle school either. So I can't say that it really helped me learn anything, but I know that's where the math and the science started at, but I can't really say that I took anything from it. At that time, I was just being in middle school and learning how to play my alto saxophone, and that's about it. Okay, now let's transition to my high school experience. I applied to a medical magnet program, but I was denied. So I ended up going to a leadership and law preparatory program, which had nothing to do with medicine, but I guess if you want to lead in any capacity, it is great for that. Which you can learn from the leadership aspect, because if you want to lead in a hospital, whatever the case is, or just in general, you need to have leadership skills because you are a doctor. you are like the head person, so you need to have some leadership skills. But I began in the law program, and then I switched to the leadership program because I just like law. I don't want to be a lawyer. So I switched. And I really wasn't thinking about a career at that time either. But I know at that time I had decided that I wanted to be an athletic trainer. And not just an athletic trainer, I wanted to be a sports medicine doctor. So then now I was telling people at that time, like, I want to be a sports medicine doctor. So everybody's thinking that I'm going to school to be a sports medicine doctor. And they thought like, as once I chose athletic training later, that, oh, now you're working in your field. And I'm like, no, I'm an athletic training person. But I'll get to that once I get to the college part. But I knew at this time that I wanted to go to college, and I graduated with a 4.1 GPA. I was an honors student, and I wish at that time that I knew about linkage programs, because I did not. Like, I really did not research anything about being a doctor. It just ended. I wish I would have knew that to research. And like God tell, like, you need to research the land, like count up the costs. And the Bible even tells you that you need to count up the costs, before you even do anything. So I received numerous scholarships, and I was even awarded a full ride to UNLV at that time. But I actually wanted to go out of the state. I did not want to stay in Las Vegas. I wanted to go to Texas, or I wanted to go to Southern, or I wanted to go to Grambling, because my dad, he kept saying like, oh, you can go to these schools and you can play a saxophone. I wanted to be in the band. Like, I really wanted to be in the band, because all of high school I was in the band, except my last year. I got out of it. And I really wanted to be in the band. I wanted to go to the South because I wanted to go to an HBCU, but it did not happen that way. So it made more sense for me to stay at home and use that full ride. So that's what I did. And the cost for out-of-state students is an arm and a leg for no apparent reason. So why would I go and get myself in debt when I could stay at home and just use that scholarship? And I even had more scholarships than that when I finally got to college as well. But about high school, well, if I would have left to go to college as well, I would not have been able to spend as much time with my father, because he passed in 2016 when I actually decided that I was going to go back to school. And I will talk about that later. So I guess God does things for a reason, because if I would have been out the state, I wouldn't want to come back, because now I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back at all to Las Vegas. But if I would have left at that time, because I was just so stuck on going out the state, I would not have, I can't say that I would have grown spiritually, and I would not have learned people the way I need to learn them for me to, at this stage in life. I would have thought that everybody was my friend. I would have been sharing the wrong information with people. I would have been in the wrong groups, but it gave me staying at home gave me more wisdom. And not only that, I had more time to spend with my father and my family, my mom, all of them. I had more time to be with my family, because God knew that one day I would be moving or out the country at this point. So I wouldn't have all the spiritual guidance, and I was at my church home or whatever at that time. So it gave me all the tools that I needed, and just about people management and learning relationships and learning the right relationships. I learned all of that by staying at home. So if I would have been away, I would have been with the wrong people probably, and wouldn't have learned that people are people. Because I noticed for me, that was a problem. It was the fact that I didn't have all these skills that I needed to actually go off and be a student somewhere else. I don't even know why I skipped to that, but okay. Now let's get to the college experience. I went to UNLV in Las Vegas. I had a full ride. And all these scholarships, I was one out of the first 10 to receive this Eagle-Stud scholarship at UNLV. I was featured in the magazine majority of the time throughout the semester. I was completing community service, which was a requirement to keep some of my grant scholarships, whatever the case is. And you'll probably see the picture of me being featured in the magazine. But yeah, I was involved in a lot of programs on campus, which allowed me to build my resume. I began my college experience majoring in athletic training because I was not fully committed to the idea of being a doctor. Like, no. So I had this as a backup plan. I was like, I'm going to do athletic training. And I always thought medical school was too long. Like, who wants to do that? I don't want to be in school forever. I want to live my life. So all the time, I always had the idea of becoming a doctor at the back of my mind, but I just didn't know when to input it. The funny thing is, as I was like, oh, this is going to be my backup plan for athletic training, I never used that at all. I didn't even get certified. Okay, so I never worked a day in my life as an AT. So on the other hand, this is when like the problem started in my journey as a student, thinking I was doing the right thing for becoming a doctor. So my third year in this time, I decided I wanted to be a dual major in biology. So, which I should have never did. Years later, I found out that you don't even need a degree in a science in your undergrad, as long as you fulfill the prereqs. So that was one of the things that I should have not did. That was a bad decision, because after I did that, my GPA started dropping, and when my GPA started dropping, that means I started losing my scholarships. So I was taking classes at that time too, because when you're going into the medical field, one thing you need is a good foundation, and that is something that nobody told me. I couldn't learn that from anybody. Honestly, I had to go through the process to realize like, oh wait, I really need to take these classes like more serious and get a good foundation. Nobody tells you that you need a good foundation when you are going into the medical field. You need a good foundation. Me, on the other hand, I wanted to hurry up and get out of those classes because I just wanted to graduate. So I was not thinking about, oh, you know what? I might need to know these sciences really well so that it'll help me later on. And no, I didn't. So because I don't have a mentor, I didn't know I should probably be slowing down. And everybody at that time too, I remember, because I wanted to rush to like get my life started, rush to do everything. I was in a rush. And I learned that I probably should have just slowed down, because still, here I am. I had to retake classes later on because I was in such a rush. And because I didn't take those classes serious, I didn't learn what I need to learn at the time I need to learn it. I was rushing to get basically nowhere, because I still didn't complete all the stuff that I thought I was going to do at the time I thought I was going to complete it. So I wasn't aware of the fact that I really needed, like I said, all the information for later. So like I said, ended up losing scholarships, and I was trying to complete the medical school prereqs without advisors. And in God's word, we're going to add that in there. It tells you plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many advisors, they succeed. So you really do need an advisor, a mentor, or something that you can find. But in Vegas, I don't even know any African-American person that I go to. Not saying that they have to be African-American, but I didn't know anybody that I can actually contact and be like, hey, I need help, and what do you think the right thing for me to do if I'm pursuing a career in medicine? No. So the thing is, you should find an advisor if you can. Find someone. If not, find somebody on YouTube. It could be me, whoever. Find somebody that you know that can help you and that can identify with the journey that you're on. So I thought I was going about everything the right way. Like I mentioned in the beginning, I didn't take time to do research. I didn't research the path that I wanted to take. I did not research anything about what path a doctor should be taking. All I knew was that I need to take these science prereqs. That was the farthest that I got. I looked up, oh, I need to complete these prereqs. So I just thought that's what I need to do as a pre-med student. And I eventually looked for a pre-med counselor, which was I think all of this was in my third year as well, on campus. And he gave me a list of classes, and I just started randomly taking them. Because some of the classes you really didn't need a prereq for. Once you did the first and second biology courses, you were able to have free reign. You could take a lot of classes. You can even go up to the 500 level class or whatever in science. And that's what I started doing. I was like, oh, this looks interesting. Let me take it. I had no clear direction of what I should be doing. And I didn't even need to take those classes at all. But I guess all science classes are beneficial, but you need to have an aim and you need to have a focus and a purpose for taking them. And for one, what are you going into? The reason you're taking it. Do you really need this class? No. You really just need to hit the prereqs and move on. So I started taking upper level classes, like I said, and I did things out of sequence. I didn't follow the foundation, and I had a shaky foundation as well because I wanted to rush out of the classes. So like my first biology class, I got a C, the next one got a B, the next one I failed, got a straight up F and didn't even retake it. So after that fiasco, I just ended up replacing biology with a minor in psychology, and I moved on. And I remember at that time too, I had made like a 3, 5, 15-year plan. And I wanted my life to be like this, and that at this year and whoop, whoop, whoop. But I put on there as well that I wanted to be a sports medicine doctor. I don't know if that'll happen in the future, but whatever. But I noticed that in this 3, 5, 15-year plan, I wanted to get married. I wanted to have kids. And I had all my years set on what I wanted to do. That did not happen because here I am at 31, no kids, not married. So this is just the way, I guess, that's just what it is. I graduated in 2014 with my Bachelor's of Science in Athletic Training and a minor in psychology. So I guess it did help because athletic training started my interest in things that were medical. I started to learn certain terms and words. I had anatomy and physiology, which is what you need in medical school as well. So some of the classes did help me. After I graduated with my degree in athletic training, I already knew that I didn't want to be an athletic trainer, but I was still trying to avoid medicine at this time as well. So I began searching for every career besides that. I started working at Macy's, and I worked there for like almost 2 years. But then I realized I was giving my entire check to Macy's and I was getting no profit because they were getting all my money because I love to shop too. So they were only giving me like 3 hours a week at that. And I ended up quitting that job. And then I found out about being a substitute teacher, which my aunt told me about. And I started doing that up until the years that I left for my master's program in 2019. So I taught for about 4 or 5 years, and which was a great experience. And I learned that I was passionate about helping others as well. I was passionate about helping students learn this material. If you were behind, I was passionate about making sure that you learned it. So I took a 2-year gap as well from school. So I graduated in 2014, and in 2016 I went back to school. So in that 2-year gap, I was going back and forth whether I wanted to do medicine or not. So I took it, like I mentioned, I was trying to avoid medicine. So I started taking an accounting class because I was thinking of becoming an accounting major. I enrolled to be a nurse because then I started thinking about I wanted to be a nurse, and I took like a prereq class for nursing, and I'm like, but I don't want to be a nurse. So and the funny thing is, at that time, it was a lady at my church that came along, and she was like, and I told her, I was like, oh, I'm going to be a nurse now. And she was like, what? No, remember you said you wanted to be a doctor? And it was random because she wasn't at her church. She hadn't been there in a minute. And she came back and was like, you want to be a nurse? Are you sure? And I'm like, yeah, I'm sure. I'm going to be a nurse. And she was like, oh, okay. Because I remember you said you wanted to be a doctor. You should follow your first mind and go be a doctor. And I was like, okay, well, I'm still going to plan on being this nurse. And I just think how it's crazy how God sends somebody to remind you of what you should be doing, because he's like, this is where you need to be going. This is the path you should be going on. But I was still not convinced because I started doing and looking for something else after I found out I still didn't want to be a nurse. So I started looking into being a physician assistant. And then at that time, I think it was saying like you need to do like 3,000 clinical hours. And I'm like, well, why would I do 3,000 clinical hours and take the same, almost the same prereqs to be a physician assistant when I might as well just go be a doctor? So that was out, and I was like, yeah, nothing I was trying to do was anything that I need to be doing. And honestly, I was going to be wasting more time if I kept going on that path of not solidifying my decision and going ahead and being a doctor. So the year 2016, like I mentioned, my dad had passed. In 2016, he did pass, but in that same year, I decided I was going back to school because my dad was pressing me about going back to school. He was like, I thought you wanted to be a doctor. What are you doing? And so I'm like, that same year, I decided I was going to go back to school. So I went to a community college called CSN, and I started pursuing a degree in an associate's in biology. And that same year I started back, I was like taking 2 classes at a time as well. So I wasn't really like having a heavy load because I was still working. But unfortunately, in that same year I decided to start back, the same year my dad passed, the same week I had a final. And that was in December, he passed away. So yeah, that year was kind of weird at that. But we're gonna move on from that. So while I was at CSN, my last year in 2019, I began researching schools to let them know that I wanted to be a doctor of medicine. So I called these schools that I wanted to apply to, which is something that you should do. Call the schools that you want to apply to. I told them about my experience and my GPA, and they all recommended I apply to a master's program, which I did not want to do because I just wanted to get to medical school. And I noticed that, I don't know if it's everyone that goes into medicine or that they're pursuing a degree in medical school or to be a doctor of medicine, that they want to rush and be done. Because everybody wants to live their life. I want to be done with this degree. So I just wanted to get to medical school. I was tired of taking all these classes. I was tired of get this mastery, do this. I don't want to do that. I just want to get to medical school. And the funny thing is, me just getting to medical school, I found out that all you're doing is taking them science classes that you want to rush out of. Y'all, I didn't know. But I remember that all the schools that I contacted, they recommend a master's program, so I started applying to them. And it's like, if you want to be a doctor, you're going to have to follow through with this path. So when I was finishing up my last class in 2019, I had got a C in organic chemistry 2. And I was like, I will not be taking this class again. And you know how everyone is like, you need to get a certain grade. And I was like, absolutely not. Because do I really need this? Is it really like a requirement that I need organic chemistry 2? So I forgot to add in, I did take organic chemistry 2. But before that, like I said, I got associates in biology. And majority of those classes I was retaking. So it took me a minute. I started that degree in 2016 and didn't end until 2019. That was an associate's. So it was a lot of classes I was retaking. I had failed organic chemistry 1, and then I had to retake that, got a B in it. Then they were talking about organic chemistry 2. And so you can see the frustration in why I just wanted to hurry up and be done. I don't want to add nothing else on. I don't want to do anything else. I just wanted to be done. And then that's when it came to organic chemistry 2, and the teacher is telling me that, or how I was saying, like, I'm done expending energy here, and how the teacher's telling me, oh, well, you need to add this on. I will not be retaking this class. That's what we're not going to be doing. So I was like, I will be going to a master's program, and I will not be expending any more energy on this class that I really don't need as much. So I remember I had talked to my teacher, and he implied that I will not get into a master's program with that grade and that I need to retake the class. And this is why you need the Holy Ghost. Because if it wasn't for my relationship with Christ, I would not be where I am now, because God led me to the opportunities, and God gave me an unction to move at certain times to receive the blessings that he had for me, to be in the right place at the right time. So I had an ear to hear, even when the teachers were like, were telling me I wasn't going to be accepted, that I wasn't going to be accepted, but God was telling me, my faith was telling me I would be accepted. And all I had to do was make sure that I applied broadly and applied to all schools, basically. And this is why you can't listen to everybody, because you can miss out on a blessing or a place that you are supposed to be, have the wrong people in your ear. And everyone does not know what God has for you. Everyone does not know what the plans are that he has for you. Like his word says, for I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, to give you hope in a good future. The people that are telling you the stuff that you shouldn't do and saying this not going to happen for you, that's their faith. That's not your faith. That's their faith. They think that you're not going to get in. But if I believe that I'm going to get in, it's my faith that's going to get me in. It's not my teacher's faith, my mama's faith. I mean, it could have been some of those people, but at the end of the day, it's my will, and I have to choose to do certain things. I have to have faith. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. So I believed that I was going, so that's what happened. I got accepted a month later into a master's program at Virginia State University, getting my degree in biology. So even then, I received my master's. I didn't even say that. I received my social biology in 2019 when I graduated from that school. And like I said, a month later, I received an acceptance letter at Virginia State University. And it was even prophesied to me, too, that I was going to school and that, you know, everything, God was going to make provisions for me. And that, you know, as long as I stay focused, that it won't take me that long. But yeah. So that I was accepted to Virginia State University, and I graduated with a 3.7 GPA because my associates, they were not, I told them what my GPA was, and they were like, no, you will not be able to get into a medical school if you don't do a master's program. So I received my master's of biology at Virginia State in 2021. At this school, I was able to do research, and this is when the process began of me getting into medical school as well. When I got there, I went to one church in Virginia, and all I did was mention that I wanted to go to medical school. And the way this started was I had sat next to a girl that was in the church service, and well, she sat next to me, I guess. We sat next to each other. And she was like, hey, what's your name? And I told her what my name was, and I had told her that I was, and she was like, oh, what are you here for? I was like, I'm actually here for school, and I'm getting my master's at Virginia State. And she was like, oh, wow, so what are you're planning on doing with that? I was like, well, eventually I'll be going on to be a doctor of medicine. And she was like, really? Well, there's a group that my sister is in because she's going to medical school too. And she told me about that group, and I never seen her again. But that it was a group group with all like the Black students or whatever that are in medical school. And she put me in the group. I never seen her again, but by me meeting her that day led me to every other opportunity as well, and me meeting other people that I would have never met. So that's how you know it was God ordained for me to be at that church that day, because I was searching for a church, and I was like rolling around Virginia like, okay, I need to find a church home. Let's get it going here. And that day I met her, and but it was because I was clear on being the fact that I wanted to go to medical school. Because if she would have told me that at that time, and I would have been like, oh, you know, I think I want to go to medical school. Or what if I would have said I wanted to be a physician assistant? I would not have the opportunity because I'm not clear on where I'm going. So you can't identify certain opportunities, or you can't identify what's for you if an opportunity comes up if you're not clear on your goal. But at this school, I was a graduate assistant. I was a committee member on a program called Troils that helps those that are trying to go to medical school. I even designed the banner, and I designed the logo as well. So at that time too, I became the social media coordinator for that program. I did research with the teachers. I learned about this group called Premed that helps you, and they even have resources for you as well. I signed up for MAPS and SNMA. This is when I found out about MAPS and SNMA. I was accepted into Mentoring in Medicine, which is in Bronx, New York, which helps you not only helps you, but it helps you with your MCAT. It helps you, it gives you tools and resources and shows you how to study over a certain period of time. And it goes through subjects every week. And I don't know how much it was, but there was a fee for it. But at that time, we were doing everything online too, because they didn't have it started. Well, no, they did. They had some students that actually lived in New York that were going. And then I also was accepted into SAEP, which is a program that was at Virginia Commonwealth University. And it was over the summertime. They give you like a stipend just for being in it. And that program, I can say that it really helped me at that time as well, because it gave me the mindset of like a student doctor. The topics that we talked about, even the rigor of the course, from all the classes we were taking. I was in class from like 4 a.m. to like 1 o'clock because it was on East Coast time. And at that time I was back home because this happened during COVID. So I was back at home already. And this program actually was online. Everything was moved online. So I was up at 4 a.m. every morning, which really is not conducive to me being successful, but I was there every morning faithfully participating. And I was not as successful in that program. And if you passed and did well on your MCAT, but at that time they didn't allow you to do your MCAT because of how the program was. You could only do your MCAT at the end of the program, which actually that would make sense because you had no time to study for it. So I wish I would have did better, but honestly, no, because I'm where I'm supposed to be at right now. But that program did give me the mindset of what it meant to be a medical student. You were able to do things for dentistry, pharmacy, medicine, and I forgot what the other one was, physical therapist. So they have 4 different careers that you can choose from that you can focus on while you go throughout that program, that had classes that basically dealt with what you were, your career. So in 2020, I started the application process for medical school, and I received the AAMC scholarship. It was the one that, I don't even know why I don't have the name for it, but I will put it below. But I received that scholarship where they pay for all your applications and they pay for the secondaries as well. And I took the MCAT twice as well during the pandemic, but I still didn't get the score that I needed. I had completed the mentor in medicine program that was supposed to help me for my MCAT, but it was during the pandemic, like I mentioned, which and while they were trying to figure it out, during the pandemic, they were trying to figure out what testing days they could have because they didn't know what was going on in the world. So we couldn't even apply to take our test, and every testing time was packed because it was so many people that were trying to take their test at this time. So they had a waiting list and all this other crazy stuff that was going on at that time as well. So, and then they moved the test from 8 hours to like 5 hours. So it was a lot of changes happening during the pandemic. So I ended up taking my MCAT in July, and then I took it again in September, which really didn't give me enough time either to study for it. And I think I scored like a 492, which was still not good enough to get me into the school. So I didn't get accepted into any U.S. schools. And I remember, and I want to point this out too, I was, like I mentioned earlier, I was rushing to be done with the MCAT and rushing to get to medical school, like I mentioned, only to figure out that the MCAT was basically the same thing you'll be taking in medical school with additional classes. So if you didn't know that fact, you know now, because I didn't know. And I was really bamboozled because I thought I was getting to medical school and I was about to be living my best life. And I don't even know why I thought that. Like a lot of people you know what you signed up for. Honestly, I didn't, because I didn't have anybody to tell me that that's what medical school was. I had no idea the courses that were on the MCAT were actually some of the same courses that were on a grad level at medical school pace is what you'll be taking in medical school. So fun. I was like, a scam. Now I didn't got to school and I thought I was really gonna be, I don't know what I thought. I had false expectations. But on the other hand, I knew at that time I was leaving Las Vegas, and that I was like, nah, this is not where I'm supposed to be. And I remember one day I was in my room and I asked God, and I was praying. I was like, Lord, where do you want me to apply to? Because I still hadn't got an interview at all from any of the schools in the States. And I had applied to a whole bunch of them. Like I applied to maybe 30, and I even spent a little bit of my money for some of the schools that I added on. And I had got on my phone, and it was an interest group that I was in for medical students that was on Facebook. And this girl mentioned, it was crazy. I got on there at that time, and she mentioned that she had gotten to a Caribbean school, and I had no idea these schools existed. I had no idea. I didn't even know they existed. And then I started looking them up, but they have everyone says there's like a stigma attached to a Caribbean medical school because it's hard for you to get back in the States, and if you'll get certified and stuff like that. But I took a chance, and I ended up applying to AUC, SGA, UMHS, and Ross. And UMHS, I did not finish the application because I wasn't planning on going to that school. However, I ended up planning, when I ended up landing one interview, so I did, like I mentioned, UMHS, I was not planning to go to that school, so I didn't finish the application. So after that, I ended up landing one interview in a week with AUC. And January came, I was sent a letter that I was accepted on conditional status to their MERP program. I had no idea MERP was part of Ross and AUC both. So I was accepted into MERP, at AUC, and that summer I began the program, which was at home. And it was usually in, I think, Miami, but they couldn't do it that way that year, so everyone was at home. And I couldn't understand anything about that program. Like, I could not catch the rhythm of it. I did not understand the classes. I was just lost. Like, every day I was trying to figure out, like, how do I study for this? It's so much information, so much material. And honestly, I guess it is a way, like, to tell you how medical school is going to be. But at the same time, it's like, you can't even be successful, because if you don't know how to study, if you don't know how to be a medical student, and if you don't get I guess you really need those programs to show you and help you prepare for medical school. Because if you don't, you will fail, like, for real. But long story short, I failed that program. I later applied to SUU, and they claimed up and down that I would get in, that I would receive an acceptance letter. They let me know, I believe it was like a week, or no, it was a couple of days before school started. They let me know a couple of days before school started, which was on that Monday, that I did not get accepted. And I was so happy too, waiting in expectation, because they gave me hope that, like, I would be let into school. And the lady was even calling me like, this is what you need when you go to this school. And I'm thinking, like, oh, okay, you know, she's talked to the admissions department. Nope, definitely got declined. So I was exhausted about the whole process, and I did not know where else to apply. And I was just like, okay, Lord, I thought you said I was leaving, because I could have sworn I heard that when I was praying, like, I'm leaving. And I had this expectation that I was leaving that year. And I knew I was leaving very soon. I had already had all my luggage packed. I had everything packed because I had an expectation that I was leaving. I had all my luggages packed. And when I got that last, like, rejection letter, I was like, okay, maybe I'm not leaving. Maybe I got to stay here another year, 2, 3, whatever. So I was trying to accept the fact that I probably wasn't leaving. But my friend had called me. She was like, didn't you apply to another school? Was there another school that you were supposed to be applying to? And she was like, no, you need to try again. You need to go back and see what other school you applied to. And I remember I applied to UMHS, which is University of Medicine and Health Sciences, in St. Kitts, where I said I was not going. And yeah, that same week I completed everything for the program that same week. And I completed all the stuff for the application in that same week when I found out that I was rejected. And she was like, you need to hurry up and complete that. So I called the school, trying to figure out, like, all the stuff that I needed. And when I called them and they sent, like, the stuff back to me, I got all my recommendation letters in that week. Literally, I did everything in 1 week. And the next week I had an interview. And then 2 days later, on that Friday, because I think my interview was on Wednesday, on that Friday, I got an acceptance letter that I got accepted at this program, but it was in St. Kitts. That was a problem. And I was like, so am I going to stay in Las Vegas? Nope. So in 1 week, like I said, I was accepted. And I remember my friend told me that I needed to put a flyer out to say that I'm going to medical school and that I need money. And I didn't think that people were going to give. She put a whole flyer out, and I was like, I don't like asking people for money. Like, if I got to do that, I might as well just stay at home. And she was like, no, this is something you need to do, because if you want to get different results, you don't know what God can do for you. You don't know how God is going to step in and do what he said he was going to do. If you're expecting that you're going to leave, then you need to expect that he's going to make a way for you. I ended up raising more than $5,000 in 2 weeks. Like, you can't say that God didn't do that. You can't say that God did not make a way for me to get to medical school and confirmed it along the way. Even when I got here, I was watching messages from, like, Darius Daniels, Bishop T.D. Jakes. Like, all these messages confirmed everything that I was doing, that I was right where I was supposed to be at. I was able to pay for my application fees, my first and last on my apartment. I bought all the items that I needed. I paid for all my luggage. I bought both of my plane tickets, and I still had money left over for groceries when I landed, and then my financial aid kicked in. So you cannot tell me that God had already had this plan. He had people ordained for me to make this happen. He like, oh, okay, I'm going to show you that this is the way you're supposed to go. Like, when you know that you're supposed to be doing something, God is going to make it happen. And he literally opened the door for me and made it happen. He will open doors that no man can shut, and shut doors that no man can open. I got to school by faith, and I got to school because other people around me that were faith-filled believed that I was supposed to be going, and they believed with me, and it happened. So I passed the program. I ended up passing the program. And I matriculated into extended basic sciences that January. So I want to say that, I don't know if I mentioned that because I was too excited, but I got accepted to the school, but it was on conditional status into a program called ARP. And that was a program that I mentioned that I passed that basically mimics what medical school be like. Now, I can't say if it mimicked it. We got to medical school and it was a whole nother beast, and I was mad the whole year. But I passed that program. I'm matriculating to extended basic sciences, which is a longer portion of you being in school. And I got in that January, and I officially became a medical student in January 2022. And yeah, you should probably see a video coming up. So I got into medical school, still going strong, and I did not know how I was going to get in. I did not know where I was going to go. I just knew I was going, because having a relationship with God, it pays. Not just that it pays, but he gives you insight. Like he says, I will tell you great and unsearchable things you do not know. And that's in Jeremiah. So if you don't have a relationship with Christ, you don't know what's coming. You don't know what to expect. But when you have God, you know what to expect, because it's like the Holy Ghost will tell you. It will be an unction from the Lord. Like he will let you know when you have a prayer life, when you are fasting. God will let you know what's next. He will like give you insight into the next phase in your life so that you will always have hope and you will always have faith. He's the only one that can tell you what's going to be next in your life. He's the only one that can give you insight into something further. I don't know about those who are not in church, but I believe in the Lord. So that's where my faith lies. And I would never thought that I would be out of the country, but I am. And this is really like how God told Abraham, I'm going to take you to a place that you don't know. And that's exactly where I am, that he would make my name great. And here I am, and I'm actually in medical school now, completing this. I would say this is like year 1.5. And I will tell you about my first year of medical school in another video because it's not what you think. You're going to be frustrated. Now, I'll say this, that this is my story about getting into medical school in conclusion. And I've noticed some similarities, I guess, in everyone's story, that it's very challenging. Like, it's no joke, because I hated my first year. But it's not something that can't be done, especially with the right guidance and having the right people in your life. You need somebody there that can support you, that understands your journey. Because even though your family may be there, everybody doesn't understand if they've never been to medical school. They can't really give you the guidance that you need. So you need somebody that can help you along the way, to help you remember why you started, remember who you are, that is a faith-filled believer in Christ, that can honestly speak life into you and give you hope about your future. So I would say on this journey as well, like you do need, like I mentioned, you do need a relationship with Christ, because you will miss out on certain things if you have the wrong people in your ear. And it could be, you can have the wrong people in your ear, or you can be speaking negative as well. Because it's also I can hear the wrong thing and I can be saying the wrong thing. And like it says, power of life and death is in the tongue. So it's a faith journey. It's all about relying and trusting on God. That's what I can say. How I got to medical school is because of my faith in God. I had a clear plan for my life, and I relied on God's voice, and I trusted in him to do what he said when he spoke to me in my quiet time about what he had planned for me, and the what he revealed to me and where I will be going. So I would say just trust in God, get a relationship with Christ, have a clear plan about where you're going, get the right people around you, and God will, and leave it up to God. Like, do your part and God will do his. So I hope this message gave you some insight into my journey. It might have been a little long, but it needed to be. And ultimately, I hope it can help you in some way. And if you need my assistance or whatever, send me an email. I got it below in the description. And yeah, let me know who you are and how I can help you in any way. And thank you for listening to my message today. And I hope you guys prosper in every way possible that God is sending you. And one day we're all going to be some great physicians. So thank you for listening to my channel. Bye.